We're ready now to tort our cake. It is nice and cool. I have my knife and I have my cake. I've got this. I don't want this to be too tall of a cake. So I have the blade set at 3/4 of an inch. I'm just gonna cut this through. And I'm not yet sure if I'm gonna have 3 tiers or 4 tiers. So there's one, and here's another one if I decide to use that one. Let me get the other one out. Here's my other cake. Again, gonna cut that at 3/4. And then I'm going to cut it again at 3/4. Now, as you'll notice, as I cut this one, it caved in just a little bit, and so I have a little bit of an indent. So what I'll probably do, by the time I put all the ganache on, I can either fill this up with cake, or I can fill it in with ganache. I'm thinking when I stack these, and remember I'm going to have some ganache in between each layer. It's going to be about this much higher, and that's probably going to be a high enough cake. So what I will probably do is I'm going to take this right here, and I'm going to take this cake and I'm going to cut some off and fill it in there. This is a little secret that a lot of cake decorators would do if they need to fill in when they're doing a cake. Now, I don't really want this hard crusty part, so I'm just gonna, and I don't want to cut down through the cake, I'm just gonna cut this hard crusty part out, and I'm leaving the cake. Just getting the crusty part off. And yes, it does make it so you can see that the hole is even a little bit bigger and may even go all the way through in a couple of spots. Like right there in the very center. That's going to be okay. But what I'll probably do with this one, because I am going to be filling this one in, is I'm going to go ahead and make this my bottom layer. And then I'll be stacking the others on top of this. So I have my cake board, and I'm just going to slide that right under. And then what I want to do is I want to cut some of this. And I'm just going to take it. I don't really want the outer edge. I want the more moisture part. And I'm going to fill in here. Just fill in that cavity with this cake. And by the time we pipe the ganache and we eat it, nobody's even going to know that that was a separate cake that was added back in. And this cake is really moist, so I can kind of just push it down and it kind of glues together. And remember, we're putting the ganache in there, and so you're not even going to be able to see that, or no, you won't even know that's there. But that way I have the right proportion of cake to ganache by doing that. And you'll see as I put this together that this cake's still going to be plenty tall enough just using the 3 layers. So I just took this out of the freezer. I'm going to put it in this bag. I whipped it just a minute. And this is still really soft, and I'm not sure it's going to work. We may end up having to freeze it overnight, but I want to try, see if I can get it to pipe out. Because as long as I can get it to pipe out, I can go ahead and put it in. But I'm thinking this may be just a little bit too runny. So we're going to try. Yeah. As you can see, that is really still pretty runny. But we did get it to go, and you can spread it too. And as runny as this is, remember this is going to set up when it's in the freezer. But as I said, I want to get this done tonight, so I'm probably rushing it. I'm going to stick my next cake on there, and instead of trying to pipe it, I'm just going to put some ganache on it. And then I'm going to just spread it around. And I think I need a little bit more. And now what we're going to do, we're spreading it around. Just going to stick this top layer on. And you see this is moving around and it's kind of soupy, but that's okay, because what we're going to do now is we're going to stick this whole thing in the freezer for about an hour. And because we only have this amount, it's going to set up firm. And then once this sets up firm, we'll be ready to spread the top of it. We are now ready to put our cake together. I chilled this just a little bit more, and then I whipped it, one final whip. And while it's still very soft, because it really does need to set overnight, I believe we now have it whipped enough that we'll be able to spread it. And this does not have to be, I don't know if I want to say the word pretty. It doesn't have to be smooth, because remember, we are going to put those chocolate curls all over the cake. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on, and I want this not super thin, but I also don't want it really thick either. And I've chilled my cake a little bit, and the hope in chilling it is that we will get this ganache to kind of set up a little bit before we stick the curls on. And we might need to stick it back in the freezer once we get the spread for maybe 10-15 minutes, definitely not much more than that, just enough to set this so that when we stick the curls on, they won't fall off. We'll try to set a couple of curls on beforehand, but if it is too soft, they will just fall off. The one thing we can do, though, is we can set the flowers on top. And then they can get set while it's all in the freezer. Now, I'm going to just kind of scrape some of this off because I've got way too much that's falling down here on the bottom. So we've got that about the way we want it. And as I said, it doesn't have to be perfectly smooth because no one's going to actually see the frosting. But what we want to do now is we want to see if it is going to be set up enough for this to all stick. So we're going to start by putting our flowers on. And we made 3 of these so that we could kind of put 3 on like that. And they are sliding just a little bit. Okay. So we can try, but I'm thinking we're gonna need to have this set up a little bit more. Because you see, when I take these curls and put them on, they don't really want to stay that well. I'm also noticing I need to try to smooth out some of these sides just a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this, now that it's spread, with that's on the top in the freezer for probably a half an hour. We just want it to be enough for it to set up. And then we'll come back and we'll see if this ganache is set up enough on the cake that we can start putting our curls on. I stuck one on there to see if this chocolate ganache was firm enough, and it's sticking. So all we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and stick this chocolate on the sides of our cake. And if it starts slipping, just hold it for a minute until it sticks. And I'm going to go ahead and just keep setting this. And I will get back to you when I have this completely set. And when you put it on, if you don't like the way it looks there, just pick it back off and move it to another spot. So I will get back to you when this is completely done. I have almost the whole cake covered. I just have this small area right here that I still need to cover. So I just kind of wanted to show you, when you start getting really tight, you have to be a little bit more selective in your pieces. You just kind of look, you can look at a piece and decide, is it going to fit or not? And I'm getting to the point where when I pull out big ones now, there's a good chance they're probably not going to fit. Some of them still will, like that one was pretty good size and it fit. But for these little corner top things like this, I'm just looking for interesting, unique pieces to finish it up. And there, I have it all the way around. So now all I want to do is I just want to slowly turn this and see if there's any spots I feel like I could stick another small piece. Because the first time through, you're probably going to miss some. So as you go through it, if you see big open gaps where you can really see the ganache, then you're going to want to take some of these little pieces and just fill in. That one's too big. There's not really a right and wrong way to do this. You're just kind of randomly putting them in there. And you are done when you decide you like the way it looks and that you're okay with the amount of ganache that is showing through. Now, if you try to put too many of these on, you'll notice they'll start trying to come off. So we don't want to stick too many on. But we do want to make sure that they're coming out at all these different angles. So here along the top, I may find I need to stick just some single stuff here so that I have some more coming out at these interesting angles. And those are just the finishing touches that you do as you look at it. I think I'm going to quit right there for now. And what I'm going to do now is I'm not going to put this back in the freezer, but I am going to put this in the fridge overnight. In the morning, I'm going to take it off of this, stick it on the cake plate that I want to serve it from, and then I'm going to just do another look and see if I need to place any more of these. The cake is now sat in the fridge overnight. We're now going to move this cake onto our serving plate. And to do that, I have this big spatula. If you don't have a big spatula, you can just use whatever it is you have. I like this because it gets completely under the cake. Now remember, the cake is on a cake board, so I'm able to get my hand under there. I'm just going to get this so that's right there, and then I just slide it off onto the cake board. Here you have our peony cake with the chocolate peonies resting in the chocolate curl grass. Delicious to taste because it's that lime flavor. Enjoy. This is Nadine with DIY Sweets. Happy baking.